It's 106 miles to Chicago. We got a full battery and a half a bag of M&Ms. It's light and we're wearing sunglasses.
Hit it.
It's almost 9 a.m. We are about a half hour late, but we're going to do a speed run to Chicago for a concert tonight. And it's all adults, so we should be able to go fast. Good morning, we are in Wisconsin. Exciting that we're climbing out of the rain and starting to see the sun poke through a little bit. Fall colors are in full swing. I don't know if that's going to come through in the camera, but they're here. We're about an hour into the trip and going to make our first stop in about 15 minutes. More for bladder's sake than the car. We're still at 57%. A better route planner had us going all the way to Tomah before we stopped, but the Tesla and my bride suggested a stop earlier. So we'll hit Menomonie for a bio break and then be on the road and figure it out from there. But these should be able to be quick stops, other than our last one where we're going to want to charge up enough to get into downtown and back out. We'll see you in Menomonie. Alright, Menomonie at 10:04. We're going to plug in, setting 10 minutes here. And I think we can make that with 2 adults, so let's try. Charging at the Marketplace Foods here. We have been preconditioning, so we're at 49%. Really too early for a stop for my taste, but it was necessary. So we'll be back in a minute, see how we did. Alright, it's saying we're up to 76%. Just got out of the Marketplace Foods and saying we have enough to continue our trip, and we definitely do. So 10:17, we're on our way. We are in Tomah, saying 30 minutes. I don't know if we'll need all that, but we're going to get some lunch. 23%, 11:47. Since last charge, 103 miles, 339 watt-hours per mile. We've been going pretty quick up and down hills. Not super efficient, but we're making time. All right, a run to Jimmy John's, had some lunch, go to the gas station for some additional snacks, and ready to head out. At least hacking into the mainframe here. 87%. That's saying we'll get to Janesville with 17, which is way more than enough. So we'll see you there. Good afternoon. About 4 hours into the trip. It's 12:51, and we just had the route reroute us to Madison Supercharger, to a less busy superchargers. I think it wanted to send us to Oak Park. We're going to get there with 24%. Now it's saying Madison with 35%. Changing the cadence a little bit, but we'll see what looks best on a better route planner. And then again, our last stop, we're going to need to charge up enough to get in and back out for tomorrow morning. So I'm on a very noisy road right now. We'll figure it out and keep you posted, but for now we're doing good. All right, it was a long wind to get off the highway to find this, looks like version 2 supercharger, but we're here. It's saying 30 minutes here. We're not going to do that full because we're going to make one more stop closer so we can get to the hotel with more for tomorrow morning. But 41%, 1:44 in the afternoon, we're going to get charging. All right, ramping up here. This is a V2 station. So it had us come here because the other one was apparently busier. But we'll just get what we need to get here, and then I think there's another charger that PlugShare suggested we hit that's closer to the hotel. So just a quick stop here. Okay, we just ran into the Hy-Vee quick, got back out here, and we're up to 73%. It wanted us to stay for another 20 minutes if we wanted to go all the way, but we're going to stop at South Barrington based off of the directions on a better route planner. And right now we're going to get there with 26%, so plenty. And that looks like that's in Schaumburg, Illinois. So we'll hit that one and then get to the hotel. And a quick unplug here. Bye-bye Madison. We are about 6 hours after leaving home, and we're into Illinois by about 10 minutes. And on the tollway, of course, we've got about 50 minutes to get to Schaumburg and our next stop. We were going to try to go to either the Art Museum or the Field Museum, but those both close at 5. By the time we get to our hotel and even get to the front door of either of them, they're going to be just about ready to close. So unfortunately, we're missing out on that, but we'll just walk around a little bit, get dinner, and then go see the show. This last stretch has been pretty efficient, 278 watt-hours per mile over the last 30 minutes. But the speed and traffic is picking up the closer we get to town. But at least the clouds have cleared and we're having a beautiful afternoon to drive. Here we are in Schaumburg at a big outlet mall place, furniture store. Since the last stop, 116 miles, 313 watt-hours per mile. We've gone 398 so far. We need to get up to about 75 to get to the hotel with about 50%. So that's what we're going to go for, and we'll just wander around here in the time being. Right.
Sure, Dark.
All right, we overstayed doing our stupid bit, but but it's 81. We got plenty to get to the hotel, so we'll see you on the way there. Saying we'll get there with 63%, so plenty for the morning and Sentry mode overnight. So 4:03, let's go. All right, we finally got here, 62%, just like they predicted. 5:43, 445 miles for the day, and we are running out of time. So I gotta get checked in, and we gotta get up to the venue. We made it to the show right on time and had a blast. The short Green Line train south got us back to the hotel. If you've never been to Chicago, the trains are the easiest way to get around quickly, and a 24-hour unlimited ride pass is only $5. Perfect for this trip. And all of the stations have kiosks where you can buy those cards. We slept in, then drove up the shoreline to see a little more of the city, Lake Michigan, and to get stuck at a bridge for a while. Of course, we missed most of the attractions, but we'll have to come back when we can stay longer. Good morning. We are at 55%. We were at 56, so lost a little bit overnight, but it's 45 degrees, was a little colder. It's 8:52. We are going to run up the coast just because that's cool to see, and then we'll duck out. We might regret that. We'll find out. But gonna try to get out of Chicago relatively quickly and then do a speed run home. Did you have fun at the concert?
Yes.
We just had a beautiful drive up the lake in Chicago. Had a good long stop for the bridge to open, but that's just good part of the experience stuff. Got to look over Navy Pier while we were doing that. Now we're cutting west across town, hopefully meeting up with I-90 West. Both PlugShare and Tesla are agreeing that we're going to go to Rockford, Illinois, then Lake Delton and Menomonie. They have different percentages, but they're agreeing on the best path from where we're starting. So that gives me good confidence that we're going to have an efficient drive home once we get out of Chicago. And now onto the highway. Saying 35 minutes here. We'll see what PlugShare says. We're here with 11%. So split the difference between the Tesla and the Better Route Planner estimate. But it's 10:49. We get a plug in. We're in version 2. I think we're sharing, but I'm not sure. It's fairly full, but there are a couple spaces open. But the pedestals aren't labeled in order. So we are going to see if we ramp up here above 15 kilowatts. I think we're going to ramp up here eventually. Obviously, we're not going to stay for an hour and 10 minutes. A few minutes in and still only at 36 kilowatts. So we're obviously sharing, but this might just be a slow charger for version 2. But we need to get breakfast anyway, so we're going to figure that out and come back, make a plan. If we have to jump to another charger, we will. Odd situation here, where even sharing, I think we should have been charging faster. But I trusted that it would ramp, and we went inside the mall. 12 minutes later, I checked the app, and sure enough, we were getting 102 kilowatts and at 25%. The orange bacon lines up there showed the battery was warming, so maybe I didn't precondition enough on the way there, but regardless, that higher rate stayed, and when I checked 8 minutes later, we were still charging at 107 kilowatts and up to 45%. Okay, we just got plugged into by another car, so we're going back slow again. We've got enough to get to Tomah. That can be our next stop. We're not going to sit here for another 20 minutes to get, or Murdo. I can't remember the name of it. But anyway, there's another one closer. We'll hit that and go faster. 75%, 11:27. That was a long stop. but part of that was very long Starbucks. Not long line, slow service. But we're gonna get moving now. Alright, we navigated right to Lake Delton to get the max out. We had a little wind against us, so we're at 10%, but that's good for supercharging at a V3. This is a new supercharger for me, but our last trip was 116 miles, 370 or 67 watt-hours per mile, so pretty inefficient, but we're going fast against the wind. So 647 so far on the whole trip. Let's get out and plug in. This is near Wisconsin Dells, so there are a lot of hotels, a lot of water parks, and a lot of restaurant options around. All right, to get to Burnsville, it's saying stay here for, well, now 50 minutes. I don't think we need to be here that long. And 20 minutes in Menomonie to get home with 22%, which is plenty to get home with. Charging up at 2:30 there for a second, so that's good. Interesting that it's saying 50 minutes to continue trip, though. That seems very excessive. All right, we're at 83%. We're down to 48 kilowatts coming in. And it's saying we'll get to Menomonie with minus 1%, but we'll just make an extra stop there. Plenty of chargers now between here and Menomonie, so if that's the case with the wind, then we'll just make another stop. All right, 155 miles on that stretch, 240. We were going a little slower to make it. And we got here at 3%. It's almost 4 o'clock. Let's plug in and plan our next stop. We're ramping up pretty good here, almost to 100 kilowatts already. This is a version 3 station, so it maxes out at 250. But let's see our plan here. All right, we are charged up to 54%. It's saying we need 10 more minutes here to get to Leesore. That's where my daughter has been while we were on this adventure. But we're also going to need to get back. So that means we're going to need a stop in Bloomington anyway. So we'll just hit the road and navigate to that, and we should have plenty to do that. Yep, and to the Bloomington Supercharger, it's saying we'll get there with 22%. So that's more than enough to get there, and so we're going to take off. 409, 63 beautiful degrees here. Beautiful fall day. And Ellie's going to drive. We are in Bloomington with 22% and at the new Supercharger, only 74 miles to get here, 326. Average efficiency, or average energy, 876 for the trip so far. Let's plug in. And charging up, this should ramp pretty fast. All right, at 77%, we're leaving at 5:49, headed home. All right, we made it home at 72% at about 6:15. We've been home doing a little reset here. We got 889 miles on our Chicago portion of the trip. Average of 334 watt-hours per mile. And that last trip was just down from Bloomington, so pretty easy there. And here we had a change of plans that kept the road trip rolling. My brother offered to bring my daughter home, so I dropped Ellie off, cleaned out the car a bit, and reset before hitting the road. I'll explain on the way. I'm going to try to do as quick of a run as I can up to Vining, Minnesota, and meet up with some friends of mine from high school. They've been golfing and having a good time today, grilling, things like that, but I hope to be able to make the bonfire. Right now it's saying I'll get to Vining around 10, a little before then. Hopefully I can beat that. But I do have to charge enough that I can get back out of Vining at the end. So we'll see how this goes. I feel like we made pretty good time through Wisconsin today. Beautiful with the sun and the changing leaves. That was fantastic. But since hitting the Twin Cities, I feel like we've just been at stoplight after stoplight, and we're just stuck at another one there. So hoping to make up some time once I get back on the interstate. In the meantime, enjoy this beautiful sunset. I apologize that I'm probably in the dark here, but I wanted to talk through a little bit of strategy before it gets completely dark. Originally, when I navigated to Vining, Minnesota, it was having me stop in Clearwater, which is a great stop. It's about halfway, but it's an older version 2 supercharger, and I was going to arrive there with about 40%. And it doesn't really make sense to get off the highway to charge slower and then have to make another stop. So I re-navigated to Alexandria. I plugged that in, and it's saying if I stay below 70%, I can make it there with 3% in Alexandria. That is a version 3 supercharger. So the game plan is to take it a little easier, use a little less speed, but get further and arrive with a real low state of charge, so I can really max out those V3 superchargers and make only one charge stop and have that be faster. Now, I do have the bailout option. If this doesn't work, if it's saying I'm going to arrive too low, I can always bail out at Clearwater anyway, but I'm going to try to avoid that if I possibly can, since I'm kind of on a time crunch already. So I'm going to try to power through all the way to Alexandria. We'll see how that goes. See, we are now passing Clearwater. We've been sticking to 70 miles an hour, and that means we're going to get to Alexandria with 10%, which is more than enough. We'll keep it at 70 until we're closer, and we can burn up that excess range, or just not need to stay there as long, depending on how things are going. Just keep powering through. There's not a lot of traffic tonight, so I'm not really holding anybody up, which is nice. It's always a concern about going slow, or, exactly the speed limit, is that people are going to pile up behind you. But that hasn't been the case tonight, so that's good. We're making tracks. Miles are flying by. Looking at the energy graph, you can see it was showing that there was a jump down, more consumption toward the very end. And I thought, well, I wonder why that will be. Well, it turns out, once it knew I was close enough and I was going to make it, it started preconditioning. You just saw that shut off there. But originally it was saying I'd get here with about 10%. Then it started preconditioning. And now it's saying we'll get there around 7%. Still plenty where I'm not nervous at all, but just interesting tactic. So get to the charger in about 9 minutes and should rip charging pretty fast. 6%, 8:47, so about 2 hours and 15 minutes since I left home. 1,036 for the trip so far. 160 miles since our last charge. So let's get plugged in. We're wasting time. All right, big beautiful moon up there that you probably can't really see on the screen. Sorry about that, but we're charging up. Had a good conversation with another driver who's just getting back from his first long road trip to Yellowstone National Park. Said he had a great trip. He's from Wisconsin, so heading back there. Nice conversation. We're going to see how far we've charged and what we need to get to Vining and get back. We should be fairly close. Alright, we're up to 55%, still charging at 98 kilowatts. We are going to navigate to the address and then see what we need to before we leave. We should be pretty close. Okay, we're in real good shape. It's saying we'll get there with 46% now and get back here with 30%. So way more than we need. We're comfortably leaving at 60% at 9:05. That's what happens when you start talking to people at chargers, is time goes by really fast. And then by the time you use the restroom and get a snack, you gotta run. When I got to the cabin at 9:50, my phone immediately ran out of memory. So I went in to find that the guys were deep in their nerding and hadn't even built a fire yet. With some space on my phone cleared, I came back out to check out the stats for the day. But got here with 47%, 1,074 miles in the last 2 days, average of 328 watt-hours per mile. Last stretch was only 38 miles, at 302 watt-hour per mile. And took about 40 minutes. So glad to be up here, rolling back tomorrow morning. And you can see last weekend we hit 50,000 miles and we've piled even more on. So speaking of moron, it's time to hang out with the guys. Then back to the lakeside to get the fire going. So a little different last night to tonight with the noise level. But it's a beautiful night. Well, for people who think that you can't road trip in an EV, I woke up this morning in Chicago, Illinois, and now I'm in Vining, Minnesota. Without rushing, making pit stops along the way, and I got here a few hours ago. Pretty simple. We stayed up until sometime around 4, then crashed and slowly got up and made breakfast in the morning. Before long, we were cleaned up, packed up, we were saying our goodbyes and headed out to go our separate ways. Just a beautiful, calm evening around the campfire last night. A fantastic change of pace, which I really enjoyed. All the fall colors we were looking for last week are in full swing here on the drive through the country back to the interstate. So even though we were up till almost 4 in the morning, it was nice and relaxing. Gonna make a quick stop in Alexandria. It's saying it'll take 30 minutes. I don't think it will. But gonna swing into Target and then try to clean the windshield off and just power home and see my girls again. %, at 12:25. Since the last charge, 76 miles, so not a ton there. Saying 30 minutes, like I said, we'll see what we really need. Gonna get plugged in? Come on. Okay, ran into Target, got some carrots and things for snack, and a coffee, used the restroom. Came out and tried to clean the windshield. I hope that works on camera. Seemed a little streaky on the outside. But in here it's saying 2 minutes to continue trip, and we'll get to Burnsville with 11%. I think that's just fine. By the time I stop recording this and get out, we will be good to go. 12:48. Not making super time today, but also not in as big of a rush as yesterday. So it's all good. I'm going to unplug here, and this should take us all the way home. Bye-bye, Alexandria. Let's hit the interstate and make tracks. My new estimate for arriving in Burnsville is 31%. So definitely didn't need to stay there that long. I didn't rush, but probably could have shaved off some time. But we'll see how we go. It just gives me a little more latitude to do a little faster trip, keep the speed limit up with the flow of traffic, unlike last night. So that's good. We should have a beautiful drive. Bob Ross clouds in the sky. The Vikings are ahead, and just power home to Burnsville. Home at 255 with 16%. Actually a more efficient trip than I expected. 294 watt-hour per mile. There was no wind, so that was really good. But we were going pretty quick on the interstate. All in all, since Friday morning, 1,259 miles to Chicago, back here, then to Vining, Minnesota, and back home. So 1,259 miles, 409 kilowatt hours used, and 325 watt hours per mile. Not a bad trip for a weekend. We are now at 51,371 miles for the car's life, and time to do that 50,000 mile review. I'll wrap up the stats and costs in the studio. And this time we've got some pretty interesting stats I want to share, both on the trip just to Chicago and then the overall trip. For the Chicago-only portion, we did 889 miles at 334 watt-hours per mile. So not terribly efficient, but not bad. Our average charge time stop was 24 minutes at a cost of $13.84. And then the total for the Chicago-only portion was $110.73. And then when we combine the whole trip from Burnsville down to Chicago to Vining and back to Burnsville, we did 1,252 miles at an average watt-hour per mile of 324. So we got a little more efficient, a little more rural driving and things in there. And our average stop time dropped down to 23 minutes, and our average cost went up at $14.73 because charging in Minnesota is a little more expensive. And that brings the total cost for the trip to $147.25. So if we take that and divide it all out, the average cost per mile for the Model Y was 12 cents. And then if we take that same mileage divided by 30, assuming you drive a gas car with 30 miles per gallon, that breaks it down to 42 gallons that would be needed, and you multiply that by today's average gas price, which is $3.81. It comes to $160.02. Divide that all out, and we come to 13 cents per mile for a gas car doing an equivalent trip. And so you do still save a little bit of money with the EV, but not as much as you used to. Where you really make that money back is charging at home at much lower rates than what you'll find on road trips. Another aspect to look at is drive time between charges. And, there's a lot in the media about, you have to charge for 5 hours every 50 miles or something ridiculous like that. Our average time between charges was 2 hours. And then if you take our average of 23 minutes per charge, that's driving 2 hours and charging for 23 minutes, which still isn't great. But if you look at our very first charge stop of the trip, we drove about an hour and 15 minutes to Menomonie, where our bladders needed to take a stop. And the car had plenty of charge. We could have kept going to our next stop, which was another hour and 30 minutes away. So first stretch, starting out with 95% and draining it quite low, we could have gone 2 hours and 45 minutes. But people are biological things, and sometimes you need to make more stops than machines do. So although those numbers aren't great, we could have optimized it a little better. But there becomes a line of where you're obsessing over getting every mileage and the perfect charge stop and enjoying yourself on the trip. And we don't get to do adult trips very often, so we took this a little more casually than maybe a speed run. Sometimes it's nice to have that workable and relatively efficient trip compared to the perfect trip. Aside from our start at home, which was 95%, the highest we ever charged to at a supercharger was 87%, and that was only once. And the lowest we ever arrived to a supercharger was 3%. And so our average charge between all the stops was 54%, so we really stayed in that middle range of the battery. And I think that's all the stats I can pull out for you today, but if you have any other questions, please feel free to leave a comment down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for watching. Thanks for coming on this trip with us. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And thanks for watching again. Have a great day, and happy road tripping.